Major Henry Kelly VCMC in Amp Bar was an English recipient of the Victoria Cross, the highest and most prestigious award for gallantry in the face of the enemy that can be awarded to British and Commonwealth forces. Kelly was born on the 10th of July 1887 in Collyhurst, Manchester. He was a temporary second lieutenant in the 10th Battalion, the Duke of Wellington's regiment, during the First World War. At the time of his award of the Victoria Cross in 1916, he was awarded a military cross and later a Battalion medal in Italy in 1918. Other military awards include the Belgian Croix de Guerre, the French Médaille Militaire and the Spanish Laurel Cross of San Fernando. Early life. Henry Kelly was born to Charles Kelly of Dublin and Jane of Manchester. He was left the oldest of 10 children after his father died in 1904. He was educated at St Patrick's School and Xaverian College, both in Manchester. After moving to King Street in Moston, he was employed as a sorting clerk at the Newton Street Sorting Office and trained with the Manchester Royal Engineers Territorial Regiment. On the 5th of September 1914, aged 27, he enlisted into the Queen's Own Cameron Highlanders as a private. He transferred to the Manchester Regiment and became a lance corporal and 2 weeks later a sergeant major. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant on the 12th of May 1915 into the Duke of Wellington's regiment. On the 29th of October 1918, he was awarded the Victoria Cross, and after being presented with his VC ribbon by the Corps Commander on the 11th of September, he was made a temporary lieutenant. Award of Victoria Cross. On the 4th of October 1916, when he was 29 years old, he performed an act of bravery at Les Sars, France, for which he was awarded the Victoria Cross. Later he was also awarded the Belgian Croix de Guerre and the French Médaille Militaire for most conspicuous bravery in an attack. He twice rallied his company under the heaviest fire, and finally led the only 3 available men into the enemy trench, and the remained bombing until 2 of them had become casualties and enemy reinforcements had arrived. He then carried his company sergeant major, who had been wounded, back to our trenches, a distance of 70 yards, and subsequently 3 other soldiers. He set a fine example of gallantry and endurance. Award of Military Cross. In June 1918, as a captain serving in the 10th Battalion, he saw action in Italy on the Asiago Plateau, where he led a company and a half on a successful raid on Avenue, to the south of Asiago, on the night of 21-22 June, after which he was awarded the Military Cross for conspicuous gallantry and devotion to duty at Avenue on the night of the 22nd of June 1918, when in charge of a company and a half in a raid. Despite a bright moon, he successfully assembled his party and attacked, killing a large number of the enemy and capturing 31 prisoners and 2 machine guns. His gallantry and fine leadership were largely responsible for the success of the raid. 1. The raiding party won Koi with 2 platoons in support under Captain H. Kelly. VC formed up without incident and the advance commenced at 11:30 p.m. according to timetable. 2. Avenue was found to be very lightly held and was quickly mopped up. An outpost working party was also met with about 100 YDS in front of the front trench. These were mostly killed, the remainder fled, and the advance was in no way delayed. 3. The enemy's front line was entered at 11:40 p.m. on a frontage of 200 YDSE of the GUARDINALTI Avenue Road. The trench was found to be very strongly held, a convoy apparently being concentrated for relief. 4. The raiding party was thoroughly imbued with the spirit of the bayonet, and the greater part of the garrison was wiped out with cold steel after slight resistance. All dugouts were thoroughly bombed. There can be no doubt that the number of enemy killed was very high, even after making full allowance for the impossibility of obtaining really accurate figures. With some difficulty, the officers of the party were able to ensure that 31 of the enemy were brought back alive for identification purposes, etc. All are convinced that this formed less than a third of the garrison of the trench. 5. One machine gun was captured in good condition. Another was captured but had been so damaged by artillery fire that it was not worth salving. One flammenwerfer was also obtained. 6. The raiding party returned in good order through the enemy's barrage about 12 midnight without incurring further casualties. 7. Result of raid: prisoners 31, enemy killed, highest estimate 80, lowest estimate 50, MGs captured 2, MGs destroyed 1, flammenwerfer captured 1. 8. Casualties: killed 1 other rank, wounded 1 officer, 18 other ranks, missing 1 officer, 2 other ranks. SGD, ABBEAUMAN, Brig. Gen. CMDG 69th Infantry Brigade, award of Barter Military Cross. Kelly was involved in later actions on Il Montello above the River Piave on the 27th of October 1918. During the Piave, he led another successful attack across the Piave, after which he was awarded a bat to his military cross. On the 27th of October 1918, in the attack in the enemy positions across the Piave, he led his company with greatest dash and gallantry to the capture of all its objectives. His coolness and utter disregard of danger under heavy fire of all description inspired all ranks, and by his skillful leadership his company succeeded in taking many machine guns and several hundred prisoners. Kelly left the army in 1920, having been promoted to the rank of temporary major and put in charge of a rest camp in France. Between the wars, Kelly went on to first serve 1922–23 in the Irish National Army during the Irish Civil War, then joining the International Brigades in 1936, as a foreign volunteer fighting against fascists in the Spanish Civil War, and was ranked Commandante General. Here he was awarded the Grand Laurelled Cross of San Fernando. At the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939, aged 52, he rejoined the British Army and served from thence as a lieutenant in the Cheshire Regiment. From October 1943 until February 1944 he was placed in charge of the District Claims Office of London District at Curzon Street. He was at the time court-martialed and severely reprimanded for making an allegedly false claim for £2.10s. He later resigned his commission and left the army to return to work for the Post Office. Post-war, Kelly continued to work for the Post Office and lived in Wythenshawe, Greater Manchester. Following a long illness, Kelly died on the 18th of January 1960 in Prestwich Hospital. He was buried after a private funeral attended by members of his family and representatives of the Duke of Wellington's regiment, in Southern Cemetery, Manchester. Medal location: Kelly's Victoria Cross is displayed in the Duke of Wellington's Regimental Museum, located within the Bankfield Museum, Halifax, West Yorkshire, England.